everybody. I'm Captain Fred, your host for Aviation Theater, and a proud member of the San Diego Aerospace Museum. We have a good program for you today, and we'll get started right after this important message. With me now is Bill Kitzig, super duper mechanic. He's an A&P, A&I, ABC, and everything else you can think of. He does everything from airline transport to hot air balloons. Bill, tell us about this airplane behind us and its recent adventure that you were involved in.
It's a Douglas Skyraider, AH-1, and it's in the movie We Were Soldiers. Well, it's a Mel Gibson movie, and this is the one airplane. It was one of the two airplanes that were in it. So anyway, we went up to the set, and there was another Sky Raider like it up there, and so I made a movie with him.
And you were responsible for the maintenance?
Right, on both the Sky Raiders, right.
What was it like working on a movie?
Actually, you don't really know. We went out to the set and looked around, and then they took us back to King City, which is 22 miles from the set. That's where we launched the airplanes.
Can you tell our viewers a little bit about the history of this airplane, the actual history?
I can tell you somewhat on it. It was the last one out of Thailand, and I guess the rest of them are still over there, but this was the last one out of Thailand before they overrun.
What were they used for?
Low-level attack, ground attack, low-level bombing, strafing, such as that.
What kind of armament does it carry?
I carried, this one here I'm not sure, it carried two 20-millimeter cannons, it carried bombs, rockets, as you can see on the airplane, it's got the rockets underneath. And then it carried three 2,000-pound bombs underneath, or one underneath and one on each wing. And it had all sorts of different armament that they...
What about speed and fuel?
Fuel consumption is anywhere from 100 to 120 gallons an hour. And
120 gallons an hour.
Right. The oil tank holds 36 gallons of oil. And the speed on it's around 350, 380, something like that.
So it's really a flying fortress, what they used to call the B-17.
Right, this airplane will carry a bigger load than the B-17 did. So it carries a pretty good load.
That's quite an accomplishment. In closing, I'd like to tell you that Bill Kitzig is the mechanic that keeps Aviation Theater in the air. With me now is Brian Smith, who is a member of the Commemorative Air Force, and he's going to tell us about the Flying Tiger airplane behind us. Brian?
Yes, sir. What you see behind us right here is a Curtiss P-40N. Actually, this is a ladder model of the Curtiss P-40 line of aircraft. Okay. The earlier models, the B and C models that were used by the American Volunteer Group in China, were actually an airplane with a smaller engine and less armament than you see on this aircraft. This airplane has 3 50 caliber machine guns, where the early B and C models had 2 30 caliber machine guns in each wing and 2 50 calibers on top of the cow in front of the cockpit, and fired through the propellers just like the World War I aircraft did. The Curtiss P-40 at the time of Pearl Harbor was the only fighter that the Americans had in full production. And so we had to gear up very quickly to bring in our other fighters into the war. But at the beginning of the World War II, it was the P-40, along with other aircraft like the Wildcat, that held the line against the Japanese in the South Pacific.
Did this have the Allison engine?
It sure does. Has a Allison V12. At certain performances, like the Mustang's Rolls-Royce Merlin could outperform the Allison, but in the strafing, ground support type of situation, the Allison proved to be a very successful engine, very strong, very reliable, and they didn't really have any problems with it. It just wasn't quite the performer as the Rolls-Royce Merlin.
With the retractable gear up and the throttle all the way into the firewall, what would this airplane do?
It could do about 300 miles per hour, probably better than that. The thing that helped the American volunteer group was the fact that, well, the Japanese aircraft were lighter and more nimble than ours, but the fact that the American airplanes, this P-40, was heavier. It could dive faster. So General Chenault developed the tactic of diving down on the enemy, shooting him up, and then diving away, and then come back up, get height again, and do it again, and again, and again. And that's how they were so successful in China and Burma.
Thank you very much. The Curtiss P-40 Flying Tiger. Well, that's our show for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. Until next week, this is Captain Fred saying, God bless America and happy landings!